The year is 1959. Enugu, the eastern capital, buzzed with electric anticipation. The London Constitutional Conferences had begun, promising an end to colonial rule, a blueprint for a truly independent Nigeria. But for the select few, the truly powerful, these public spectacles were merely distractions. For them, the real negotiations were held in the deepest hours of the night, in places shrouded in secrecy, far from the gaze of mortal men and flashing cameras. Sir Alistair Thorne, the pale diplomat, had shifted his base of operations. Lagos was too exposed, too close to the burgeoning strength of the Ajay. Enugu, with its quieter, more stratified colonial society, offered the perfect stage for his final, most audacious play. His goal was no longer just the heart of the Iroko, but a complete, undeniable control over the newly emerging Nigerian elite. He sought to create a shadow government, not of influence, but of blood. The invitations were discreet, delivered by silent, impeccably dressed couriers. They bore no official seal, only a cryptic sigil, an interlocking pattern of vines and a serpent's eye. The recipients were the rising stars of Nigeria, brilliant, ambitious, and utterly indispensable to the new nation. Men like Chief Emeka Okoro, a charismatic lawyer, and Dr. Ngozi Eze, a renowned economist. Patriots, yes, but also men with deep desires for power, wealth, and lasting legacy. They gathered at an undisclosed location, not the governor's mansion, but a secluded, sprawling colonial estate on the outskirts of Enugu, rumored to have belonged to a particularly reclusive British magnate. The air within was thick with the scent of jasmine and something else, something metallic and faintly sweet. The windows were heavily curtained, the lighting dim, casting long dancing shadows from antique oil lamps. No electricity, no escape. Sir Alistair Thorne, now no longer masked by diplomatic pleasantries, greeted them with an unnerving intensity. His spectacles were gone, revealing eyes that seemed to burn with an ancient predatory fire. He did not offer conventional pleasantries. Instead, he presented them with a choice, a temptation that transcended mortal ambition. He offered them a form of eternal life, not the ephemeral immortality of political legacy, but a literal, physical transcendence of death. He spoke of the longevity of the British Empire, how it persisted through unseen forces, fueled by the dedication of those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. He offered them a share in that eternal power, a promise to never see their nation fall, for they themselves would never fall. The price, a ritualistic oath, a bond of blood that would inextricably link their fates and the fate of the nascent Nigerian nation to the New World Coven. They would become the Night Council, a clandestine body that would guide Nigeria's destiny from the shadows, ensuring its stability under their immortal influence. In return, the coven would share a diluted version of their gift, extending their lives, sharpening their minds, granting them access to knowledge and power, far beyond any human comprehension. It was a terrifying proposition, to betray the very independence they fought for, to embrace a monstrous form of servitude, even for the promise of limitless power. The room was silent, save for the heavy breathing of the mortals and the chilling, unblinking stare of Sir Alistair. This wasn't just a political bargain, it was a pact with damnation, the ultimate test of their ambition. But unseen forces were at play. Amadi, guided by his grandmother Mama Ayo, had foreseen this unholy convergence. The Ajay, though not invited to such civilized negotiations knew the true stakes. They had tracked the dark energy emanating from the secluded estate, sensing the impending pact that would forever bind their land to a parasitic shadow. As Chief Okoro's hand trembled, about to grasp the cursed goblet, the very foundations of the estate seemed to shudder. A wave of ancient protective magic, sent by the IJ, surged through the ground, causing the oil lamps to flicker wildly and a faint, acrid smoke to rise from the polished floorboards. The atmosphere shifted from oppressive dread to primal terror. Sir Alistair Thorne, enraged by this magical interference, let out a low, guttural growl that was anything but human. He knew the AJ had found them. The true war, the unseen struggle, had breached the walls of this false negotiation. The tempting offer of eternal life now seemed a desperate ploy, as the very ground beneath them began to rumble with the power of ancient spirits. The midnight negotiations had become a siege. Outside, the IJ intensified their magic, attempting to physically repel the coven, to break the unholy pact before it could be sealed. Inside, the Nigerian leaders were caught between two terrifying forces: the cold, immortal threat of Thorn and the raw, ancient power of their own land defending itself. Chief Okoro, jolted by the raw magic, stared at the trembling goblet in his hand. He saw not eternal life, but eternal chains. With a surge of defiant will, he hurled the goblet across the room, where it shattered against a wall, spilling its dark contents like poison. The act was small, but its symbolism was monumental. It was a refusal, a declaration that Nigeria would be truly free, even if it meant fighting against immortal enemies. The midnight negotiations had failed, but in its failure, a new kind of resolve was forged. The elites of Nigeria had seen the true face of their oppressors, and for a moment they chose freedom over immortality. The stage was now set, not for peaceful transition, but for outright war. And the eve of independence, October 1st, 1960, would be no celebration, but a bloody, final confrontation.